What if one of the strongest things you can do in the world was simply become the kind of person who makes life safer for others? Not louder, not tougher, not more feared, safer. Sasqwarriors, mossy-minded misfits, I am so glad you're here. We live in a world that celebrates force, volume, attention, dominance. Everybody wants to be seen as powerful. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to win. And somewhere in all of that noise, we've started overlooking something sacred. Being a good neighbor is one of the strongest things a person can be. And I don't just mean neighbor in the old-fashioned sense. No. I'm not talking only about the person next door. I'm talking about how you move through the world, how you carry yourself, how people feel after they've been around you. Do they feel judged? Do they feel tense? Do they feel small? Or do they feel a little more at ease, a little more human, a little less alone? Because that matters. A lot of people are carrying pain you cannot see. Some are grieving quietly. Some are worried about money. Some are lonely inside their own relationships. Some are exhausted. Some are barely holding themselves together while pretending they're fine. And sometimes the greatest thing you can do is simply not become one more source of pain. That is real work. That is spiritual work. That is human work. Maybe being a good neighbor looks small from the outside. Maybe it's checking in on someone. Maybe it's sending the text. Maybe it's holding the door. Maybe it's waving first. Maybe it's listening without turning the conversation back to yourself. Maybe it's staying calm when the world is trying to drag everybody into outrage. Those things seem small, but they are not. Because every one of those moments tells another human being something. It tells them, you matter. You are not invisible. You are not alone. There is still kindness here. And people are starving for that. But let me be clear about something. Being a good neighbor does not mean being weak. No. It does not mean letting people use you. It does not mean you never say no. It does not mean tolerating abuse, manipulation, or chaos. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be compassionate and still protect your peace. You can care deeply and still walk away from what is unhealthy. That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. A good neighbor is not a doormat. A good neighbor is grounded. They know who they are. They know what they value. They know how to offer warmth without surrendering their dignity. And I think this world desperately needs more of that. Not fake niceness, not performance kindness, not social media kindness where people want applause for being decent. I'm talking about the real thing. The kind that happens when nobody claps. Nobody films it. Nobody rewards it. Nobody even notices it except the person who needed it. That kind of goodness is holy. And maybe that's part of the lesson. The forest doesn't scream to prove it has power. It just stands there, steady, ancient, present. Maybe real strength works like that too. Maybe real strength is being the one person in the room who doesn't escalate. Maybe it's being the one person who stays respectful. Maybe it's being the one person who notices someone is struggling and chooses to care. Maybe it's being the one person who makes a space feel safer instead of harder. That changes people, and it changes communities too. People think the world changes through giant moments. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, it changes through regular people making better choices over and over and over again. One person becomes more patient. One family becomes more loving. One friend becomes more dependable. One neighbor becomes more aware. One street becomes more connected. One community becomes more humane. That's how the world shifts. Quietly, steadily, choice by choice. So if you've been wondering what the path is really about, start here. Be a good neighbor. Be the person who doesn't harden the world any further. Be the person who brings a little steadiness into unstable places. Be the person who remembers that people are carrying invisible burdens. Be the person who leads with respect. Person who knows that kindness is not weakness. It is discipline. It is courage. It is maturity. It is strength under control. And not just towards strangers, towards the people in your own home too, towards the people you disagree with, toward the people who feel forgotten, and yes, toward yourself too. Because some of you are better neighbors to strangers than you are your own soul. You deserve gentleness too. Sasqwarriors, this world does not need more shallow noise. It needs more grounded people, more decent people, more people who know how to make others feel seen, safe, and human again. So hold the door, send the text, wave first, offer the grace, help when you can, and when you can't help, at least refuse to add more harm. That alone is a powerful way to live. Go into the quiet, return stronger. The forest is always open. I love you all. Stay Bigblessed.